it then turned to a management strategy. How the hell can I get calm? And I started singing. I started singing my favourite songs, which I don't know why. I think it was just my brain's natural state to go, you can keep stressing and make everyone's jobs harder in this room, or you can start to take responsibility and calm yourself down, so this is going to be easy for everyone.
We're here with a we always say it, but a very, very special guest, and this is a special episode for a few reasons. One, because of who we have on, and two, it's the first time that we've all been back, myself, Jared, and Mitch all together, and there's a good reason for that, and that reason is because Josh, who we have on, has come into all of our lives recently as he'll probably explain someone a lot out of what we've offered him, but I think he doesn't realize how much he's given us. And so when we teed Josh up, we were like, well, who's gonna jump on? I know we've all got so many questions. We all have our experiences with Josh, but we kind of just decided, why not just all jump on
instead of fighting over here.
Instead of fighting.
Yes, we're up, mate. I was about to take down Brownie.
Absolutely. And so, Josh, we welcome you. And rather than asking just how you are or what you've been up to, what's one thing you're grateful for?
To open my eyes in the morning. I think that's been one major thing for me that I've been able to hold real close to my heart, is opening my eyes. I don't think I valued opening my eyes each morning high enough in my balance and mind and body balance. So opening my eyes and waking up this morning.
Yeah, I mean, that all comes down to perspective, understanding what it's like to fight the battles you have. And I think you've given me the perspective that I now have, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. So you've definitely passed that gratitude and that perspective on to me. So where shall we start? I mean, like, I want to go deep into your story here, and this is an incredible opportunity for everyone, because, I mean, everyone who you've met, especially in the last couple of months, being that we've come out of COVID, and you've joined us a lot more in the community, the men's night, the runs, the swims, the everything, and I feel like everyone you've been around, you've really touched just through your experience alone. So give everyone a rundown of what it was like growing up for you. Give us a run from your teenage years.
So from my teenage years, losing dad in 2006, I was 11. So that we were growing up in Newcastle at the time, and it was a big shock. It was a big loss considering I was in the final years of primary school. And us as a family, we were on our own in Newcastle, so we were away from our extended family for the support. So we knew it was only my brother, myself, my younger sister and my mum, which my mum, absolute blessing, she is a soldier to raise us how she did, and then also our stepdad who's come into our life in my teenage years. From Newcastle, it was a year after we moved to the Central Coast, sort of for the fresh start, get that different perspective, a different lifestyle from where we were coming from in Newcastle, which was just amazing for us. I started at St. Eddie's when we moved down, which was for year 8, and going into an all-boys school for me as a teenager was, I think, perfect, because I stopped, as we do as young boys, focusing on the girls in the school, focusing on being popular and amongst big groups of people. I was more focused on mateship and brotherhood, and I think for me, after losing dad, that was very important for me, because I had my younger brother, but I still needed to learn some sort of ways that I could lead as an older brother still. So as a teenager, to answer, I was trying to be a sponge. I was trying to take the good and the bad from everything that I was seeing so that I could start making some steps forward and hopefully start like influencing my younger brother and my younger sister to keep going and keep pushing.
Being 11 when you lost your dad, how did you take that? Because that's an interesting age to have such a massive shock to your life. I mean, say you were how old you are now, you're incredibly developed. So to lose someone at this stage would be totally different. Like this is just before you went into some very, very crucial growth years of your life. Do you remember much about the experience and what that was like?
So I remember the night of, which I'll never forget that. I remember the morning that Mum came into our room and woke us up, which by my surprise, I fell back asleep after seeing Dad being taken out by the paramedics. I went back to sleep. I then woke up to my mum sitting on the end of the bed saying that your dad's not coming home. He was unwell in hospital and he's not coming back. Me, broke down completely. My younger brother, who was on the bed, we shared a room, he was on the bed next to me. He didn't I don't remember him shedding a tear. He just sat there, took it in, and after that, I don't really remember many months after that. I think there was so much going on with people coming into the house. The day that Dad went to sleep and passed, he ripped out our kitchen. He ripped out our whole front room and he booked a floor sander from Bunnings. The night he went to sleep, we woke up. We didn't only not have Dad, but we had no kitchen. We had no form of cooking. We couldn't cook. Our floors were stripped. So we were kind of left in the dark in relations to what was my mum going to do to cook and feed us kids, let alone not having Dad around anymore. So it was very confusing. It was very, very confusing to be 11 in that age. And my younger sister being 2, she had no idea.
Yeah, I relate to you very much when it comes to that. Now thinking back on what happened with my story was that those months after, and I was at a very similar age as you, 10, 11, those months become a bit of a blur. Like you people are coming in and out of your life and it's almost like, for me, it was a happy time because you're connecting with family you hadn't seen for ages.
Yeah.
But then it was also like this roller coaster ride of like, I'm seeing family, I've got a funeral, like, where's my dad?
Yeah.
What happened the night before? Because I've spoken to you about this story.
Yeah.
And how do you live with that story? And, you know, going what we spoke about at the start, waking up every day is just a blessing for you with that story, and as it should be for all of us. What happened the night before leading up, post the AFL game that day? Dive into that story a little bit.
So I came home from footy training. It was that night I suffered a concussion at training. We spent a little bit of time up at the hospital just getting checked out and checked over, and Dad was very adamant that he wanted us to just succeed and chase the pathway as far as we could go and to play the sport that he loved and that his dad played and uncles played and everything. So we came home with takeaway. We came home with KFC. Dad wasn't too impressed. Dad wasn't too happy because it was late at night. He thought that we should be eating a proper diet, but Mum just had to feed us, and I come out of the hospital with a concussion, so I would have been probably nagging, saying that I was hungry, everything like that. So he went to bed that night not very happy with us, and he didn't get to say good night in the proper way, which was our routine, and that was the last time. Yeah. So I think going to bed not on an argument was my biggest takeaway from that, acknowledging it now. Yeah, I think just don't go to bed on an argument. I think for anybody with any sort of imbalance, whether it be with your parents or whether siblings, any family, I think if you can solve it and go to sleep, I think that'll be, because you never know when the last time's going to be.
How did you feel going back to school?
So I can't really remember how long Mum kept us out of school for after Dad passing away. Considering how many people were around the house in those weeks after, it was, I I think we tried to get back for the last term, a few weeks of the last term. So it happened in September of the year. So there was 3 months remaining left. I was in year 5, so I was trying to finish year 5 and then move into year 6. And it just changed. From there, going back to school, it changed. You get put into, especially after losing a parent, the education system obviously has their processes and protocols where how they will nurture somebody that's experienced loss like that. And for me, I can identify now after finishing school and processing trauma, seeing counsellors, seeing the different people to help me with what's happened. I think that what I needed most was to get back to normality, where I was forever being taken out of class, whether it to be go to a school counsellor, to speak to somebody, and I'd start lying from the get-go in year 5. Oh, Josh, where have you just been for the last hour? Or I just had to talk, mum came into the school, I had to talk to mum for a little bit.
Right.
Not the fact that I was going to a counsellor to speak about dad passing. I didn't want to talk about that because I'd get upset. So I was already subconsciously hiding trauma when I was trying to solve what it was actually doing to me.
Yeah. Yeah, because the reason I asked that, like, even as someone who isn't you, so coming back into class, how did people try and communicate with you? Could you feel that they weren't sure? Like, because it would be so hard. I do remember in primary school, there was a family who their dad passed away, and coming back is just like, you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say. It's like, and it probably makes them feel even more left out as well. Yeah. So I'm just, how did others, how did you feel from other people?
From my like close friends that I had in school, like I was so lucky. I had my best mate, he lived just down the road. So me and him spent a lot of time together, and I think that was the normality that I needed. Was some of my mates in school, they were the ones that were able to sort of not get my mind off it, but sort of distract me from just trying to process the sadness all the time and realising that, I'm going back to half a family rather than mum and dad.
Yeah.
And then obviously then coming back into school, like you are doing crafts for Father's Day and stuff like that. That was a big sort of, it was definitely hard to manage because I was feeling like I was missing out. And that again was just a time where I was getting taken away, and there would be maybe 1 or 2 other people in the school that may have lost their dad or may not have one, whatever the reason may be. And we'd go do some activities, or I'd be able to go out with Daniel in that time, and hang out with that's my younger brother. I'd hang out with him.
Yeah.
Geez, that's a big pickup from the school. That's huge credit to them to I guess to have that awareness to be able to create that space for you guys.
And the school where I was at in Newcastle, the teachers were coming over to their house to make sure that mum was okay, that we were okay. We were getting support from so many different people and so many different companies after dad's passing that we didn't really ever feel alone because of that support. But you realise as the transition goes on, there's all the support, and then everyone's got to get back to their day-to-day lives. Everyone's got to get back to what they're moving on and what they're moving forward with. And we sort of then had to then pick up from where we've left off and work out and acknowledge the fact that we've got one missing person in our team, but we can still do this.
Yeah.
You touched on it briefly before, and I want to just dive a little bit deeper because I think, and I can tell how much you value human connection and relationships. What did that loss do for your perception of other relationships in your life? Did they just grow stronger because you realise how important these people are that are in your life? Yeah,
and I think what I was sort of chasing the most out of the loss of Dad was I wanted to surround myself with people to be happy. And I think that came as a good, but it also, as I got in later years, it came as a bad. because I had to be comfortable with myself and with my family, not around distractions or other friends or other influences that were going to make me happy. I needed to be happy with myself and where I'm at. And I never really got to do that growing up as a teenager. I was always surrounding myself with people so it could distract me and make me happy.
Transitioning from Newcastle to Central Coast, that wasn't too far after your father's death, was it?
No.
How was that, going off the back of Bridget's question, to be able to create new connections? But what I'm really interested in, how did you surrender and accept a new father figure in your life, in your stepdad, and how far after your dad's death did your stepfather come in? And was that tricky? Was that hard to be able to have a new role model or a new man around the house?
Yeah, so I'm very lucky because it was at least the man that came into my life wasn't somebody that I never knew. So he was my godfather from birth. So he'd always been around our family and supported us in whatever ventures that mum and dad ever wanted to take. He would always visit. He'd always be around, whether it be a couple of times a year, once or twice a month. He'd be around. He was good friends with my dad. So for that instance, it was fairly easy. It was just a little bit of I felt like it was sort of, and this is me being brutally honest, it was like sort of stepping on my toes because I had Dad's younger brother say to me, it was probably a couple of days after Dad's passing, and he said, well, you know what this is, right? I was like, well, what is this? And he goes, well, this is obviously your purpose. Your dad has obviously felt comfortable now now to be the man of the house. And that hit me like straight in the face when I was 11. And I went, okay, man of the house, what do I need to do? Dad's obviously let go of this world to then let me take charge. What do I need to do? I'm 11. So there were definitely a couple of where we didn't look eye to eye, but I knew that he cared for us and us as a family, and he cared most of all for my mum. And that was my biggest thing, from seeing at 11, seeing my mum so sad and distressed, to see her with the support and with somebody around her that was going to make her happy. That made me happy.
How was the high school years for you? I mean, just mostly in general, but then there's also the next big hurdle, which was your condition as well. And does your brother have the same condition?
So not the same, but quite similar.
Okay.
So St. Eddie's, moving to St. Eddie's, I wouldn't have got, I don't think, a proper education if I didn't move to the school. If I stayed at St. Mary's up in Newcastle, it was sort of free reign. It was, if you want to learn, you can learn. For me, I needed structure. For me, I'd distract myself all day, every day if I had the chance. So I needed the structure in the education to be able to have some sort of punishment if you didn't do the right thing, which at St. Eddie's was time out. And if you want to learn, it's a room full of boys. There's no sort of like uncomfortability of being in there because you're all learning. And I think I definitely noticed from going to an all-boys school that for me, that benefited me 1,000,000%. To being in a co-ed school, I knew that the distractions were going to keep on distracting me from education. So,
what distractions?
Just looking around. Yeah.
I think that's probably why you cherish brotherhood so much as well, because that school, I went through Eddie's as well, and great sporting school, great academic ventures as well, but the camaraderie that you build with, it's like what we have now, man. Seriously, it's like these people that you get to be with every day, and it does become a brotherhood. And so that's why I can tell why you cherish and you love being around, us. We love being around you. It's that same vibe, same feeling.
Now, when did you find out about your condition? What age were you when that really started to show itself?
So first of all, it happened. It started happening to my brother. My brother, he started blacking out and waking back up with people around him. And at the time, he was traveling to Sydney. He was working in Sydney as a chef, so it was just long hours, brutal travel. Like, he just flogged himself. And it got to the stage where they wanted to put a monitoring system into him to realise what was going on. Why did he keep blacking out? Because you cannot continue to go on like this. He blacked out a couple more times, and then he got the call, you need to come up to Gosford Hospital. We were actually in Sydney going to a music event, and we made the decision to stay in Sydney to go to that music event and come back in the morning because they wanted him in that night. And so we did that. We went to the concert, stayed down at his place in Sydney, and then came back up to the coast. He got checked into hospital. He had a single cord pacemaker put in, and from that day, he's been better than ever. Like to sort of have a parachute on your body, and then for it to be unclipped when you didn't even know it was there. You definitely can notice. It's the whole you don't understand what you got until it's gone. Like once your health starts deteriorating, you start to then question, why am I feeling like this? Why am I keep on waking up on the floor? What's going on? And then he got some relief, and from that, his cooking ventures just took off. From the likes of being able to meet people like Gordon Ramsay to working for Matt Moran and Scott Pickett, he's been able to, although his condition, still just push. And it was probably a couple of months after he had his pacemaker, I was scared shitless because I was the older brother. I didn't want to lose someone else. So I was trying to just be there for him. And I could just feel my body then start taking a dive. I was working 6 days a week. I was training 6 days a week. I was in carpentry. I absolutely loved it. I was going for a dual apprenticeship. And I was waking up every morning wondering why I didn't feel like I had any rest. And I kept on going to work, and it got to the point where I was just empty. I was just deflated. I was getting some pretty bad pains in my chest, which felt like it was just my whole chest would just crunch in. And I was turning greyer and greyer and greyer. I went to Gosford Hospital multiple times, asking what's wrong with me. My heart's not feeling right. I'm not feeling right. I'm losing weight, although I'm training. I'm eating right. I'm working. I don't know what's wrong. And they would continue to discharge. They'd give me medication. And because they couldn't find any statistic results on me, and to actually say, okay, there's a little mishap in this ECG, this is what your condition is, they'd discharge me. They thought, whether or not they thought it was in my head or I was just being too paranoid, I guess, about Dad's passing and then Daniel's condition. But I knew in my case there was something that was not right.
Warning signs.
Yeah, and there was some definite big ones.
So then, because as you explained it, they were discharging you and just saying it was chronic anxiety.
Yeah.
Anxiety. So, I mean, obviously there's a lot of frustration there as well. At what point I'm guessing it's just the right doctor took a look at it and went, oh, okay, there actually is something here. When was that?
So I had to take the choice of getting the second opinion. I was always going to Gosford Hospital for treatment. They would refer me in-house to the cardiologist unit there. And I made the decision to go to the cardiologist that sorted my brother out. And he just said to me, I was getting put on a lot of different prescription medication. I was being put on a lot of different pain management medication to sort of deal with what was going on. Excuse me. And that cardiologist said, stop taking them. It's now been a very long time that you've been trying to get diagnosed and explain to the doctors and specialists what's going on with your body. Stop taking the medication and see what your body has to say. From that day, I had to stop taking pharmaceuticals. I don't take pharmaceuticals. I refuse to take pharmaceuticals based on it was masking me to the point where if I didn't listen and I didn't take that chance of being off them, I probably still wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. I would take pain management to just literally mask the effect of the pains in my chest.
Just Band-Aiding it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And he made the decision to put a loop recorder in me, which is like a little USB stick, and it slides just in between the muscle and the skin. And I went in for a 6-month check with this cardiologist and their team, and the lady just looked at it and said, I'll be back in 1 second. Went to my doctor, Tommy Wong. He came in, it's pacemaker time. And I just, no, you're joking. I've been told I've been fine for the last year. What are you telling me is pacemaker time?
Yeah. I think it's important to just quickly dive into what a pacemaker is and what it does for you.
So I've got a dual cord pacemaker. My brother's got a single cord.
So you're stronger.
Yeah, I get a little bit more interaction. I'm more like the jump start for the car. I got the 2 leads going straight to the heart.
The turbo diesel.
Yeah. So mine sort of, I don't have a diagnosed condition. I'm at the moment going through genetic testing to work out what's going on, and we're cross-referencing tissue samples from dad. Hopefully we can get a condition diagnosed. But my heart I'll go to sleep and my heart was starting to pause. And it would be pausing for anywhere up to 28 seconds and it would restart again. And it would keep beating. And to doctors' knowledge, they don't understand how that's happening or why is it restarting. And so they thought by putting the dual cord in as a preventative at the start, it was going to save my life for the condition if it developed. They turned on the testing, which is just twice a day, day to day. I feel pulsating in my chest, in the cavity there, and it's just electrical currents just zapping the heart to make sure that everything's running right. And they worked out that I need the pacing all the time because when my heart goes to go to rest, it sometimes will forget to beat, and the pacemaker jumps in and gives those couple electrical zaps, and it will go back into routine. It'll go back to normal.
It's like you said, it forgets to beat. It's like it's missing some sort of like brain or something like that. Like something. Yeah, it's what an interesting dive into trying to figure it out. And when you said they're getting tissue or whatever with your dad, how are they connecting your dad's study and I guess biopsy still with your condition now? What is the procedure with that?
So because dad was when he went to the coroner, it came back as undiagnosed death, and for him to be 38, they keep a sample of his tissue just for future studies. And they also keep vials of blood. So we couldn't access the blood. I'm down at the Heart Centre down in Sydney at Royal North Shore, RPA, sorry, and they put out the investigation and contacted the coroner's office to see if they could get the tissue sample. And we don't do any of the testing in Australia, so they had to send it to Korea to exploit the DNA. So that can be anywhere to a 6-month to a 16-month wait to wait for the results. My test got sent away, and 3 spelling mistakes has come back in my DNA that they never anticipated to come back for a heart condition. So hopefully after exploiting dad's tissue sample, there may be a cross-reference where they both link up, and hopefully they can put a name to this condition, or they can put some sort of field to this study and find out what's going on.
What do you mean by spelling mistakes?
So the DNA, how the heart geneticist explained it to me, we've got the way that our DNA is laid out, it's all letters and numbers. So for them to have a look at a healthy person, and to me, there's going to be a variation in a couple of letters in a specific category of heart.
Jeez, that is so... It's like a DNA's a code.
It's
incredible.
Holy hell.
Yeah.
I just learned something.
There's actually
Podcast done.
there's a documentary and a docu-series on Netflix. One is Unnatural Selection, which I just watched the other day, and the other one is Human Nature, and it blows your mind. Dives right into that, and how, and it goes right down the rabbit hole of crap. Like, we can actually genetically modify people, and so then this whole thing came of like genetically modified babies to make them certain hair color, certain eye color, smarter, stronger. Like, there's literally one little letter that can be taken out that's like you don't feel pain. And it's like, let's just take that out. But then it's like, you've got people who are completely immune to pain. Imagine what the world would be like the military, where you've got torture, but no one can feel anything. It's like, and anyway, it blew my mind. I got to rewatch it because it's just like But anyway, they've got rare cases like that they use as case studies, and they follow their journeys, and it's incredible. And it makes me kind of obviously appreciate my health as well, but understand that, kind of have a bit of empathy for you as well, and yours especially, being that it's undiagnosed. And this journey, although you've got the pacemaker, although you're sitting here healthy, and there's a lot of gratitude and a lot of perspective, it's like there would still be that like, yeah, but what is it?
Yeah.
What I want to dive into is that first operation for that first pacemaker. Unknown, scary.
Yeah.
What was the experience like?
Remember much inside?
Not really, because I was distracting myself leading up to it with work. I was working at the time, and I was just accepting anything and everything that I could take to distract myself before the op. I knew deep down that I needed to gain some funds to be able to look after myself for the post-op. So the more money I could get, I thought the better off I'd be for recovery. And that wasn't the right decision. I should have probably taken more time to focus on what was ahead of me, because not only was I scared to sleep, leading to the pacemaker op, I was scared to literally wake up, because I didn't know whether or not I was going to wake up. And from them telling me how much my heart was pausing to thinking about Dad's condition and how he passed, I was scared. I was scared shitless. And with Daniel having the op done prior to me, that was probably what held me together the most, because I had some sort of check with him that I could like make sure that everything was going right. Like, how did it go? What did you do? And he's my younger brother. So leading up to it, he told me a few facts which me then going into my op were wrong. Like, he got put to sleep and I didn't get put to sleep.
Yeah.
So
Wait, what?
yeah.
Dive
Yeah.
into that. What do you mean?
So
Yeah.
Daniel said to me, "It's fine, Josh. You're going to go in there. They're going to knock you out, put you to sleep, and you're going to wake up and you're going to be all done, all fixed." So with my condition, they needed a conscious heart rhythm to tune the pacemaker to me whilst in the operation. So I was getting wheeled in, and I just double checked with the doc. So I'm getting knocked out. Yep. Oh, no. This is a conscious operation. Sorry? Yeah, we only use local anaesthetic just for the chest area, just to numb the area, and then we'll go in. Okay.
What? You were awake when they were doing surgery on you?
They just put like it's like not a mask, but some sort of cover just over your face.
Yeah, so it was a big green sheet laid straight over top of me with a little green square for my
Yeah.
chest, and then they just folded it up and then like over my head, and then sort of just started pinning me down. So I had this arm pinned out to the left, I had my head fixed to the right,
Yeah. Wow.
and I laid there for an hour and a half.
Any TV or anything they put up?
Nah.
They
The
would've
most
had
I
a
could
heart-
watch was just the data coming back from what I was plugged into and the team that was around me. And for the first 20 minutes, I lost it. I was so scared. I was in full panic mode.
You pretty much like been like prisoned. Like you literally been like held down.
Yeah.
And your brain is still being able to, I'm assuming, function.
Yeah.
Holy hell! Wow.
And so, yeah, take us through that, because that's, I mean, they definitely would have got a heartbeat. Your heart would have been going a million miles an hour.
They're about to go in. They're like, this thing's fine. Wait, actually, it's a bit too quick.
Yeah, let's slow it down a bit. So yeah, I mean, because I couldn't even fathom that. I mean, like, sure, it's numb, but there's probably still feeling it. Maybe it doesn't hurt, but when you know people are working on your heart, it's like, there's a lot of fear in that. Take us through that first 20 minutes, and then where did it get better?
So the first 20 minutes, as I said, I was not very, very, probably calm. I was in hysterics. I was crying. I was scared. I could feel the needles. Prior to me going in, I had to learn every single step that they were going to do to me for me to be comfortable with what was about to go on. So I knew when they were sliding in the local that what they were doing. When they made the first incision, they'll go, "Okay, Josh, we're about to start. I knew what was the process, so I could sort of be comfortable with that. And that's where I sort of held the grounding. It then turned to a management strategy. How the hell can I get calm? And I started singing. I started singing my favourite songs, which I don't know why. I think it was just my brain's natural state to go, you can keep stressing and make everyone's jobs harder in this room, or you can start to take responsibility and calm yourself down, so this is going to be easy for everyone. And
was it Time of Your Life, the song?
nah, it wasn't.
What was it?
So it was a Chillin' It song that he's just a Sydney rapper.
I only know it by the lyrics. You'll have to just spit some lyrics out.
I did it once on a live with him, and then from that, I can't do that. Not anymore. Yeah, I got on a live stream with him whilst we were waiting in Sydney for Daniel's treatment once, and I was sitting in my car, and he sent me a request on live on Instagram and checked in and said, "Oh, can you rap the One Breath One Take?" And I was like,
Great song.
I can give it a go. I did it, and then from that, like, I was able to gain a relationship with this bloke named Chillin' It that I'd seen on the internet prior to Daniel's operations. Me and Daniel I'd steal Daniel out of the hospital. We watch his videos in the car.
Nice.
Just to distract ourselves from the stresses that were going on.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, me being able to tell him after the first op that one of your songs I was able to sing it to myself and calm myself down. Like, he was stoked.
Oh man.
I feel like I threw you off there. Sorry, but so that literally is how you manage yourself in that state.
And so by singing to myself, because I had the drape over my head, I knew that I was sort of on my own. I could do my own thing to calm myself. And from me looking to my right, once again, I was looking for distraction. And I seen this guy standing in this sort of like robotic sort of suit, standing on a laptop. And I asked him a question. I said, "What's your job?" And he said, "Oh, I'm the pacemaker technician." And so I started getting into the questions of how did you get into that field of work? What made you get there? What are you doing? Why are you doing that to my heart? And then he'll start talking back to me. All right, you're going to feel some things right now. And I'm going, okay, yep, all right. Yeah, I can feel that. All right, I'm going to tune your heart to 1.7 volts now. Yep, okay, no worries. And I think just from that people interaction, that people communication, it was able to distract me and bring calmness to me. And later in the months, he ends up being my pacemaker technician now that I see every 6 months. And he was there in the first op with me. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's something so simple. Like just understanding that everyone's there. I mean, everyone in that room's there for the same reason, to get you better, do that operation. But I feel like as a patient, you definitely could feel very alone in that, because it's like, well, yeah, you guys are working on it, but I'm the one. So to have that connection kind of brings everyone together, and it's like we are all in this together. And man, that being able to ground yourself and go and catch yourself and go, if I don't get my shit sorted, it's just going to make it hard. Like, it's easier said than done. And it's like, yeah, it's easy to say from the outside, oh yeah, just keep yourself calm and everyone will be sweet. But it's like, fuck, how do you do that when there's so much fear overriding you, knowing that you're going to be awake while they're operating on your heart? And where do you think that came from? Have you always had that mental strength, that resilience?
It was honestly a switch. I think my body and my mind had to do it. If I couldn't have gone through that operation in the state that I was, and I knew that. And I think from me, I was just sort of picturing how their lives would be working on a kid like me, being 24 years old, and they're squirming around, crying, bloody breathing, shaking, and doing all sorts of things. Like, okay, just be calm for a little second. That was the switch that went in my head and gone, okay, yes, they're working on your heart, that it's not necessarily a broken arm or broken shoulder that they're doing a reco on that you can live without. If they mess this up, there's what chance is coming back? So I had to calm myself.
How old were you at this time?
24.
Oh, was that when you had the surgery?
23. I was
23.
for my first one. It was
how old
25th of January.
how old are you now?
24.
24.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking,
so you only had
at all.
you only had your PID surgery like a year and a bit ago.
Yeah, so I had the first one the 25th of January, and I had the second one on the 30th of November 2019.
So that would have been obviously a big part of your life, that phase. Let's dive into a little bit what life was like over that next 12 months before you came in contact with us. Where did it go mentally? How was it living with the heart? Did you get shots? What was life like until, I guess, you came in contact
And I
with
think
us?
in the lead up to that second op as well.
It was sort of, I knew I needed to adjust to the new life. I knew that I had a condition that it wasn't allowing me to live the normal life that I wanted to, and the restrictions that were getting put onto me, that were probably the most damaging of all because of how active and how high my work ethic was being young. I was starting to be stopped in things that I loved, and that was the hardest thing for me. The only thing that I wanted to do was recover and go back to work. I thought if I could recover and get back to work, I'll go back into norm. I'll go back into everything being normal. I'll earn money, I'll do my own thing again, and it'll be fine. I didn't think about the added influence of the zapping. So the day-to-day testing. That was the first one that I'd look down at my chest and I could see my body cavitating because of the electrical impulse. And for months, I was like, okay, this is what I've got to live with. This is it. I was able to then later date go into the tech and I said, like, here's a video. Do you think this is right? Oh, that's your day-to-day testing, but it shouldn't be making your chest do that. Oh, okay. How long has this been going on for? 4 months. I might just turn the auto testing off because it shouldn't be making your chest do that. Okay, no worries. I got relief from them turning that auto testing off because I wasn't getting tested twice a day. I was only getting the pacemaker when I needed it, which was good because the testing was only for their sort of studies and for them to re-look over. So going back in for that first one, I never got cleared to go back to work. Based on the limitations that I had in my shoulder and the constant irritation of where the location was put, it was killing me. Like I couldn't raise my arm from to above my shoulder based on the leads wanting to just get caught on my collarbone. And for me to feel the leads clicking and cracking on the collarbone, I knew that it wasn't good, but I wanted to recover. I wanted to get back to work. So I didn't ignore it. I was definitely aware of it, and I'd take the photos of the swelling. I'd take photos of the redness. I'd go to cardiologists for second opinions to see what was to go. And it wasn't until I went to the physio because I couldn't go back to work, and I said, can you just make an assessment and what do you think I'm going to be able to do with the location that this is in? And she did the motion check, and she just went, there's not a lot you're going to be able to do with that left arm if you don't get this fixed. And I went in for a scan. I got it scanned, and I damaged the top of the leads from it grinding on my collarbone. So that's where the second one came in, and they switched everything off because of the damaged leads, and it was starting to prepare for it to go again.
Yeah, right. So did you have to go back for the exact same operation to put a second?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
The only difference was that I didn't want it to be done at Gosford Hospital.
Okay.
I wanted to have a different surgeon to do it, and I wanted a different hospital.
Why was that?
I think for me, it was I gave them their chance. The location where it was implanted was wrong. He was trying to, and I appreciate, obviously, I wouldn't be here if the first one never got put in. And it's not like I'm being ungrateful or anything for the first one. But where he had put it, it was between the muscle and the rib cage. So that's not a comfortable position for it to be. Usually it's stuck in between the muscle and the skin. And he just didn't want me being self-conscious about me having my shirt off and being at the beach, being a young bloke, having a box on my chest. And I understand, but at the end of the day, it's keeping me alive. So I just agreed, and I was just like, yep, sounds good. Just let's get it done. I want to get out of here. Excuse me. And so for the second one, I just wanted a different opinion again. I just wanted to, and for the danger that was involved with removing the first one, they needed to find a specific surgeon that specialised in lead extractions, especially with somebody only having it in for 8 months. And being a young body, our bodies adapt very fast, and they're going to grab onto those leads around that artery is going to grab onto that lead as quick and as hard as possible to make sure that it's going to be able to heal. And that's just us being young. So for the second op, there needed to be somebody that was competent, and I just didn't feel comfortable going back into Gosford wanting to have this done again, to have a full life again.
Yeah, and it's at the end of the day, it's whatever makes you comfortable, and it sounded like that was the decision. I have no doubt in the world that these things. My dad spent many years in the industry of pacemakers, and I know how expensive those surgeries and pacemakers are. A little bit of context between those two surgeries. What was the charge for those two surgeries and the pacemakers?
So we've been extremely lucky. Having to go through the public system, like these boxes are 75 grand each.
Wow.
So I've almost gone through 150 grand's worth of hardware in a year and a half. The first one, the coastal cardiology at West Gosford, they took on the charge and sent me in through Gosford and got me with some of the best doctors in there. So we didn't get charged a cent for the first one. And then through the second one, we had no option. I had no option to go through the public system again and have the surgeon practice out of the public system. And for me, I think they just saw the urgency and how much it was needed to get it done. So we weren't charged for the second one either.
Wow.
What after that second surgery? What was your headspace like after that, and how was your lifestyle?
So the second pacemaker, the support I knew that was around me was the ones that were going to be there they were the ride or dies. Like, they were the ones that weren't going to go anywhere. Although my personality and my persona was taking a very big impact with the stresses that I'd been exposed to for such a long time. The second one was that post-op was just, it was very confusing because I wanted to be back to full fitness. I wanted to be back to full health and get back into stuff that I love doing, and not being told you've got to wait at home, stay at home until your next appointment. And being stuck in that violent rotation of specialist appointments to doctor's appointments to hospital's appointments, I wasn't looking forward or focused on anything in the future. I was accepting that this was too hard. And that answer is that after the second pacemaker, I was just accepting of the fact that this is hard, this is too hard. I didn't really want to initiate growth because it was too hard, and I thought it was. And yeah, I was in a very clouded space because I think I had no sort of real idea of where I wanted to be based on my condition and my circumstances.
Yeah.
Sounds like that was beyond hard. Let's dive into a little bit deeper. Like, I saw your physiology change. You went to say something then.
Yeah.
Actually, how hard was it, and what were you thinking? What was going through your mind? Did you see the light at the end of the tunnel? Was there any worth living? Like, what was actually going through your thoughts at the time?
It was more to the fact I was thinking Charles Darwin theory of evolution. If I'm thinking that this is too hard, my body will slowly just give up. Suicide and obviously taking my own life was never on the cards based on losing dad at such a young age. I knew I had a life to live, and for me to end it early would just, for me, it was never on the cards. But for me to put myself into a bubble and not want to grow or not want to get better, or just always ponder on the fact that this is hard, this is horrible, why is this happening to me? It's just as bad.
It's like death of the potential, death of your soul in a way.
Yeah.
Like, obviously not physically leaving the earth, but by sitting in a bubble with someone who has experienced so much growth, looking at it, back at it now, like it was in a way a death of your potential.
And you were very before all this too, very, very ambitious as well, and you had these goals in sight as well, and for that to kind of, I guess, feel like it's kind of ripped from you with everything that happened, would have been really hard to overcome because it's like, fuck, but it was meant to happen like this. I was meant to do this, and I was meant to achieve all these things. Because you're working out a lot, massive go-getter. What were some of the bigger goals that you'd set out, say pre needing the operation?
My biggest thing was I wanted my own business, and I wanted my own crew in construction and carpentry that I could go around building houses for a living. That's all I wanted to do. That was my focus. I loved being outdoors. I loved the work site mentality. I loved getting the job done and then being able to stand back and look at something that you've created and built and going, holy crap, I built that. And that was my main focus. My main focus was having a business by 25, and I'd do anything in my power to dedicate each and every day to working to achieve that. And with not thinking about myself, with not thinking about my health. I was strengthening myself in the gym and training for my job. I wasn't strengthening myself for my own benefit or for my own growth. I was strengthening it so I could lift more at work. And that was the wrong balance for me. Like, I was flogging myself day to day, plus then in the gym as well to improve my day to day. But it was just cancelling each other out every single week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did now jumping forward into that cloudy period, when was there a point where you were like, I need to turn this around?
Yeah, so I think by being so suppressed and waiting for an appointment and waiting for hospitals to contact me, I was very critical in planning a way out. I wanted a way out, and I'd be sitting at home writing triggers, writing future plans to see what can I create from this to help, or what can I do to from this situation to get me to own a business by 25. And I was being so critical about what I had to do that I wasn't going to achieve any of that unless I took the time to focus on myself. I was focused on what I wanted to do, but I wasn't focused on where I was at that time and place. And to be in that cloud to try and execute, like, I'm pretty sure I sent you the message of the Boys to Men Foundation. It was an idea that I had whilst being laid on my back for years to help boys gain some skills to be able to turn into competent and inspirational men. And I just wanted to write that. I thought that was going to be my purpose, but how could I offer any sort of help and assistance when I couldn't even speak to my mum without losing it or getting upset if I was ever put into a confrontational situation?
A lot of humility, and that's it should be very, it's a huge credit to yourself to be able to pick up on that, because I've definitely gone down the rabbit hole, and I'm sure the boys will be able to agree that we've dished out words of wisdom that we weren't embodying ourselves. So for you to be able to pick up on that is massive. It's funny because I used to take, back at the old gym at Joey's, I used to take their sport. And it was funny because you started to pop onto the scene a little bit with Breeds, and then you had messaged me a couple of times before, and then this girl comes up to me and goes, oh, I'd started my own little podcast at the time, Find Your Why podcast, and this little girl comes up to me after the session and goes, oh, like, my brother Josh, like, listened to your podcast. And like I sort of didn't put two and two together, and then you started messaging, and then sort of we didn't hear from you for a while, and then I think you just you messaged Bridge the Gap once, and then where did that transition go from starting to engage with some of the podcasts, maybe the Bridge the Gap stuff, and then where did it go from there when you started to turn things around?
So I was honestly fed up with people's opinion about me. That I was an angry person. I was stressed a lot of the time, and I was holding a lot of pain that I was suffering from in my face. And I didn't want that anymore. I didn't want people to be worried or scared or weary about how I was going to be emotionally. I just wanted to be a person of value that could speak, and you didn't have to speak about my problems, or my emotions wouldn't take over, and I'd be able to speak just heart to heart to somebody without me feeling like I've been backed into a corner or pressure's building on me, and I'd get emotional, I'd just lose it. And in saying that, as soon as I get emotional, this little thing just starts kicking me. And that doesn't make anything easier. So it was, I got to the dead end where I needed to take on some more tools and some more processing techniques to make me execute my personality better. And the influences that I had around me and in me weren't letting my personality come forward, and it was because I kept on suppressing. I kept on saying, no, this is too hard. No, I'm not training because I'm just going to get zapped. I'm not waking up early because I'm just going to get zapped, and I hate that. So it was more to the fact of how can I learn to live with this zapping and still be happy? And I wanted to be happy. I was sick of being angry, and I was sick of being sad, and I wanted to change that.
Why does it zap you to get you up? Is it because during sleep in particular your heart slows down and it's got to get it back into rhythm?
Yeah, so the morning time I worked out off the hot showers. The hot showers would just drop my blood pressure and I'd just start getting zapped. And
You've got to do the cold showers now.
Yeah.
And you got no choice.
that's it. And like cold water therapy came as a blessing in disguise, because I didn't even work out what cold water would do to me, let alone what it would do good for me compared to a hot shower. Like hot showers, yeah, they're comfortable, they're warm, they make you cozy and all of that sort of stuff. But for me, it didn't really work for me. Like the cold shower was able to make me mediate my body. Plus it was also make me go and see face value what I'm actually capable of. Like if I want to put myself in the cold water, I can deal with a little bit of zapping. If I can control myself in being in the cold water and take my breath back, well, I can take my heart back and I can control that. And that's where that sort of, I had to pick up those tools, and whether they came by accident into my life or whether from the program of the 30 days, 30 challenges of the morning routine, the way that came into my life, I was trying to implement little bits of that into my life with Sunrise. I loved drone flying, and drone flying was a big distraction for me in recovery, that I could still hold both my arms here and control the controller and capture some footage and get an escape. And for me, that was amazing. So that was able to, it was just learning to manage. It was just so, difficult.
You won the, how was that when you won that Bridge It Up prize?
Oh.
Yeah, I felt like that was, we talked about the other day, that was just the universe working, like, because everything, our relationship all kicked off from that one experience. What happened from that prize when you saw yourself tagged, and geez, what a time.
Oh, for that, like it was pretty much like Dad knocking on my door going, are you going to move or what? Like, are you going to take this opportunity and make use of it, or are you just going to ignore it like you're ignoring your heart, your health, and your growth? Like, what are you going to do? And the first thing I did when I got tagged, I was actually trying to train. So I was doing my own little weights outside in my courtyard at home, and I ran inside. I went, Daniel, I won this competition. Like, I'm going to have I think, because initially it was the hour session with Briggsy. I was like, I'm going to learn to like do some weights and get lifting again and fix this whole shoulder and chest up. And then I didn't hear for a little while, and then I had a contact from you, and you said, we're going to switch it up. You're going to do an hour Zoom call with me. I was like, perfect. Let's sit down. Let's do it. And for me to do a Zoom call in like week 1 of COVID, where I was just like, what am I going to do? Like, I was at a place where if I wanted to go and work, I couldn't work because COVID, based with my health conditions, doctors weren't letting me outside the house. They told me to be safe and stay inside because I was 6 months post-op. And I set a little desk up outside in the courtyard, and I got on the call with Jared. And the one thing that I take away from that chat was Jared telling me, stop being so hard on yourself. Because I explained to you that because I missed one of my morning sunrises, I went and I just flogged myself the next morning in a session that made myself feel worse the next day. What was the point in that? There's no point in flogging yourself harder to make up for something that you've already missed. Accept the growth and where you've went wrong and fix it the next day. Make yourself better the next day. And Jared told me, stop being so hard on yourself. Like, look at what you're already doing. And it just resonated with me. It still sticks with me today to stop being so hard. Like, this has already been hard on me.
Sure.
So I don't need to be hard on myself I think I just need to be aware of myself, be aware of what my body's going through.
I think that's what you've done beautifully, man, is that you've had these hardships, and from it you've become so self-aware, and you handle your emotions really well, and you've actually taken the step to implement these tools. Like, a cold shower in the morning is fucking hard. It's hard. It was actually Josh that was like, first time we trained together, we were talking about it, and I was like, I do cold shower, 30 seconds in the morning, and he's like, I do like 3 minutes, and I was like, fuck this guy, I want to do 3 minutes. And he put it to me, he was like, do 3 minutes tomorrow. And that next day, man, that's when I say I take as much from you as you from me, is that next day I was just on. I never felt so good. And like, if I can start my morning now with a 3-minute cold shower, big tick off the list. Yeah, and I'm there, man.
From obviously building that relationship with Breeds as probably more during COVID, but also the 30 days, 30 challenges. What was that like, having that mixture of, working your strength and gaining your confidence in your body and your capabilities, but also then I guess it worked out, because one of the things I said in that Zoom call was, because I knew I wanted you on the Zoom call, because I knew I was always going to float you off to Breeds anyway to allow you to build that muscle. So you really did have the opportunity to work mind and body. What was the 30 days, 30 programs like for you?
It held me accountable, first of all, which I needed. And as I said earlier, the structure for me is a very big thing. If I can implement structure in my life, I'm going to get results. And the 30 days, 30 challenges, you gave me the choice. And then after giving me the choice, it was honestly probably 2 seconds after that, you said, no, hang on, I'm not going to give you the choice. I'm signing you up for this. And that's exactly what I needed. So to be honest, I didn't really even agree to the 30 days, 30 challenges.
I seem to do that sometimes.
Wow.
But you knew exactly what I wanted, and you knew exactly what I needed based on how I was speaking to you. And that's just a complete asset to you, to be able to pick that and judge that in me, that I needed this program and I needed this structure, and you thought that I could have takeaways from it. Like, I'm a product of the information that you provided to me. Like, to see where I was at 3 months ago, and Daniel is a constant reminder to me. He says to me, look where you've come from. Like, look where you were sitting inside being hard on yourself. Like, look, you get to speak to people. I get to speak to people in the community now where I used to not want to interact.
Yeah.
And the 30 days, 30 challenges, it was giving me those tools and those management strategies, whether it be through breath work and meditation in the mornings with the morning routine. I worked out that that's me time. From me being a tradie and waking up and being an early riser, I get the most out of my day in the morning and being up before most people. And it's not only good for me, but it's good. It gives me a chance to get control of this little thing going on inside my chest and actually be able to approach the day on the front foot rather than being caught behind every single day. And
then to dancing in front of the camera.
And to put a video of me on social media of me dancing, like, that's not a thing. That wouldn't be a thing. Like, even 12 months ago, that wouldn't be a thing. I'd be too worried about what people would think or what people would worry about. And 24 hours off social media. I didn't do the 24 hours. I then went to 48 hours, and then I went to 72 hours, and then I made the decision, okay, I'm going to keep social media for Saturday, Sunday, because I need to focus on myself. If I keep on subconsciously distracting myself with Facebook or Instagram when I come to a tough problem in my life or in my mind, you do it subconsciously. You get onto your phone, you start scrolling. Whenever you're bored, rather than dealing with your own problems, I would get onto my phone, I'd start scrolling, just see what's around in the world. And the first day I had no social media for the 24 hours, I went to bed at like 4:30 the next afternoon, just based on how mentally exhausted I was with being on my own. Being in with my own mind and my own thoughts, and actually having to acknowledge and process them.
It's interesting how much we take on other people's lives, and I guess that's where the comparison and the wanting to be elsewhere comes from. And yeah, it's tough. No, social media is tough, and it was tough for me. It was pretty easy for some people during that challenge, but I know, for me it was just that automated thing of like, open your thing. Go to click that, and that's when you know it's a problem. You're not in the carpentry business now either. When did that transition happen into the cafe space? And why?
Yeah, so I sort of picked up dish work and cafe work sort of in the hospitality realm because I wanted a second job. And little did I know that was going to save my working careers and my working life later date. By doctors telling me that I couldn't be up on scaff anymore and I couldn't be on roofs and I couldn't be carrying around nail bags with nail guns and hammers and stuff. The danger was too much for me. And I said, so what can I do? And then they said, well, where can you go? What can you do? Have a chat to some people, see what you can get offered. And it ended up being hospitality. So I kind of just, because that was my distraction, I could make other people's day and forget about my own problems. I'd completely immerse myself in that. And I think that's, it added value to my work life, but then it also, it definitely was adding minuses to my life because I wasn't processing or acknowledging what sort of stresses I had going on and the sadness and the, like, how much I was worried about what was in the future. And having an uncertain future was just, it had complete grasp of my mind. And hospitality gave me that chance to be able to step into the cafe and go, you know what, I'm just going to make people's day today. I'm going to make them smile, whether I have to tell them that we've run out of Avo or we're going to, like, whatever it may be, I'm going to make them smile and I'm going to make them walk away with a good experience. And for me, that was just adding purpose to my life, although I was stressing out.
And how was that, because you work with your brother now.
Yeah.
How was that for your relationship with him? Did it just grow stronger and stronger to what it is now?
Yeah. For Daniel is honestly, like, for me and him, like, it doesn't feel like as he's my younger brother because we're just trying to, like, keep each other going. If I see him going up, well, I'm going to be joining him and I'm going to be right beside him hoping that he'll be able to get there. And whatever tools he may have or whatever tools I may have, it's always just throw it out on the table and let's see how far we can go. Like, his last message to me before this was blood brothers. And it's like, he's my biggest support.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest blessings from losing dad is that I was able to be really aware of what I've got and hold on to it because what you've got is what you've given and you can make the best use of it as possible or you can start ignoring people and ignoring family, ignoring friends and you're going to be sad on your own.
Yeah.
That's all we need, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And one thing I've definitely learned is that it doesn't necessarily matter about the vehicle and the vehicle being the job title. It's what you do with it. And that's like, and taking that next step further, it's like, fuck, we're out of supplies or there's something wrong. It's like, well, how can I flip this? How can I still serve and still make people smile and still give people that positive experience? And that's an amazing trait to have. What are the goals now? How have things changed for you?
Dramatically. I'm able to actually apply myself into the, like, outer community and not just with my brother and my mum and my partner. I'm able to actually engage with people onto a level where it's a level playing field. Like, I want to communicate as effectively as possible, plus also give that person a sense of, like, thank you for chatting to me. Like, if you've taken the time out of your day to talk to me, I'm going to give you all my attention and all my energy to make sure that you know that you have my complete attention and my complete input into what you're going through or what you're dealing with. If I can't help, I can't help. But I might give you a little bit of my story to be able to give you some sort of basis in, you might have some takeaway from my life that you might go, you know what? I'm just going to be happy and smile at the fact that I'm opening my eyes tomorrow. And I wasn't aware of the outside world when I was clouded in my own brain, stressed about uncertainty of the future. I wasn't worried about the other people. And I think that was the biggest thing. I was walking around humans as if they weren't even there. Where now I'm walking around humans, smiling at humans because I want to treat them just as much as they want to treat me. And I think I wasn't aware of that. I was just solely focused on how much does this suck? And it wasn't the right way to live.
You're getting more suck.
Yeah, I was getting more suck.
Your level of, like, happiness with everything you've gone through is incredible, but also just touching on it briefly, your partner's been in and out in hospital as the time you were coming out in and out of hospital.
Yeah.
That's a lot to go through. Like your love as well, going in and out while you are. You know, how are things going with her?
Yeah, so I'm sure she's not going to mind me talking about it, but she was suffering through endometriosis a lot of the time that we were in that middle stage of our relationship. So there wasn't so much of my health worries on the cards when it came to her being unwell, and there was definitely quite a few downfalls of me focusing on my work life and not focusing on her as much as I probably should have, and I got made aware of that. And once she sort of got endometriosis again and started having more problems, I was able to be aware of where I wasn't and where I needed to apply myself for her to be able to support her through what she was going through. And it was like, to be, I love helping people. Like, I love looking after people. Like, that's, if I have care for you and I have love for you, I'll do anything in the world to possibly make you happy or make you feel like you don't have a stress anymore. And that was a big distraction for me. I was able to dedicate all my time to making her feel happy through a time of stress that, again, I wasn't focusing on what I was going through and where I was at. I was solely focused on her and getting her through endo. And it made it strong, that's for sure. But then when it came to then my time coming around and being sick, she was there. And it was kind of what I put into her, she then had put back into me. Mm-hmm. And where we sit now, I knew that the stresses that were going on in my life, it was making me a worse off a person because I couldn't apply myself in the manner that I wanted to her. I wasn't loving myself, let alone loving the people that are around me. And yes, everybody around me wanted to love me, but I couldn't see it. I couldn't feel it. Although they wanted to, I wasn't aware. And it was just because I think I was asphyxiated in the stress so much. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have those, I had blinkers on of just not being aware, not looking.
Mm-hmm. So crazy. And the other day, just to put things into perspective for everyone, and one of the things we talked about, and I know all of us have, like, we have no excuse but not to just show up, because what time do you wake up when it's a 5:15 class?
3:30.
And why do you have to wake up at 3:30 for a 5:15 class when you live 15 minutes up the road?
So if I want to, if I want my body to perform for that 5:15 class, and I want to ask that much of my body, I got to warm myself up, sort of thing. It's just like, I just need to take control of the pacemaker and what my body's doing to me, so that I can properly excel in that part.
Yeah, it's just incredible. And for anyone that's gone back and listening to that, I reckon you should try and get the clip off Cooney and just put that as your bloody alarm clock. Josh waking up at 3:30, because, you know, for someone that's been through so much, Josh, and for you to be able to have the mindset that you do today, and I've learnt so much by just sitting here, and to be honest with you, I hope you take the time to go back and listen to this and listen to the words coming out of your mouth, and listen to yourself from a different perspective and from a higher perspective, to look down on yourself and to, in a really great way, to recognise how much wisdom you do have. And I was just sitting here going, if you ever got into speaking, you would have one of the most incredible keynotes I've ever heard. To be able to tie lessons to that, to go through what you've gone through, to be able to have the mindset that you have today, you're a huge asset to everything that's happening around the Central Coast. Me and the boys have so much time and love for you, and I know everyone that you come in contact with does. But I don't know how you feeling, boys. You want to wrap it up with the last one? How are we feeling?
Yeah, I just want to say, on like public record, I definitely feel that's where you'll head. In a broad sense, I mean, what you're doing now with the business is incredible, because you're making so much out of the opportunity. But I definitely see another side of your career. Just, maybe 5 years from now, you'll look at this and be like, hey.
It'll unravel naturally as well.
It will, man. And you know what? I was literally just thinking before, it's funny how when we were doing the call outs for this podcast, like 3/4 of the way through last year, so we're looking at a year ago, you messaged and you're like, hey man, like, and you gave us a little bit of an insight into your story. I'm like, perfect, like we need to get you on. For whatever reason, it never happened, but now is the perfect time. Like you were still working it out back then.
Yeah, we would have been ready.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. And I mean, there's still so much growth and change and whatever for you, which we're all so excited for. But what you have right now, man, is an amazing amount of wisdom and knowledge and traits that a lot of people can learn from. And like I said at the start, like the biggest thing you've given me personally is perspective. And it's like, and again, before it's like, I milk getting to class on time. I'm like, I literally get there on time and I sleep in until I have to get out of bed to jump in the shower quickly and get out. And it's just like, well, fuck, like there's another reason again to just take that little bit of extra time, not be so rushed, and actually show up well. Because even though, and a big mantra of mine lately has been just show up, it's like the next step to that is how can I show up better? How can I show up and perform? And yeah, it kind of just makes me think, well, now showing up is my baseline, but how can I make it better? And so thank you for that.
I think it's important for each of us just to give Josh an insight into what we've taken away from him, because your impact on me has been huge, man. Much bigger than you'll ever know, trust me. And it's perception, again, 100%. Like, I think knowing and coming back and remembering that we have control over our emotions, you know, that's what you've driven into me, is that you've been through things that, you know, I hope I don't have to go through, and that for you to be able to bounce back from that and implement these things into your life that can make you realize what you have, yeah, and be in this present moment. That's something, since we had our first training session together, that I've been able to re-implement, and it's gratitude. It's that, and it's this thing that's probably my go-to thing as well. And, you know, when we have mottos or whatever it might be, they can slip in and out of our lives, but you re-sparked gratitude for me massively.
A quote that my mantra I've been sort of living with is here now, eyes forward. And I think it's a great indicator for someone that's very visionary and knows where they're heading and has big, audacious, ambitious goals. But it's here. And that's all we need. And for you to be able to sit in that space and recognize that you have everything you need, you know where you're going. You're not placing an expectation on it. So for you to be you're a true embodiment of that quote. And I think we get caught up in being, doing. And I did it for a long time. But to be here now, but to be ambitious of where you're going, yeah, it's incredible. So here now, eyes forward is the one I'm attaching to you.
Yeah, I love it, bro. And I said it before, it's just perspective. Like that goes so deep as well. Like there's these levels of understanding of certain, I guess, teachings in life, or maybe you attach yourself to a particular quote, but I think it comes down to timing for a lot of people. Like I've been in the ocean with Jesse, who we had on last week, and I just remember just being uncomfortable doing the pin drops down to the bottom of the ocean. You've done them, and he just said, "You're stronger than you think," and it's like how many times have I heard that? But at the right time, that's stuck. And that's, again, been so massive for me. And I just think, I think at the right time, you came along into my life and you told me the right story. Probably at a point where I was telling myself a lot of bullshit stories and hiding behind masks and whatever it might be. I haven't unpacked it fully, but that perspective just stuck and it was right timing. And it's like, boom. And so, yeah, that does go deep for me, and it continues to dive deep. But let's go to your post-operation when you were, we spoke about this the other day. It was a few months ago, and you just didn't want to get out of bed. Things were shit. It was cloudy, as you were saying, and there was a lot of frustration, and the path had changed, and you're like, fuck, like, what's it all for? Is it worth it? All this kind of stuff. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell that person lying in bed?
Trust your intuition, because I think patience is key, and I think I worked that out. I didn't work that out. I had to forcefully sort of like learn that for myself. If I kept on putting so much pressure on myself to expect results, they were never ever going to come. There's too much. You can put too much stress on yourself, and you can't be clear in where you need to go. Especially with this recovery, patience is what's prevented me from re-injuring myself. Patience is what's given me the shot to rebuild myself now from the bare bones and start to implement some strength into my life. And it's the whole patience aspect is something that I never had, because I always wanted to go and grab it and get it. I just wanted it. I just wanted that dollar. I wanted that work hour. I wanted that day of work so that I could have that money in my bank account. If you're just patient and you focus on what's actually important to yourself, not the dollar, the dollars will come. The dollars, you can focus on that later. Focus on your health and what you've got, and focus on building a proper foundation for yourself that no matter what good or bad comes into your life, you're going to be able to have the processes and management strategies to be able to get through it. Maybe not with a smile every single day, but you're definitely going to take away what's good, and you're going to be able to leave behind what's bad.
Nice.
I think before we end, how are you feeling now?
Oh.
Mentally, physically?
Like I'm in a little dream, honestly. Like
lights, isn't it?
me coming into this, comparison is the thief of joy. I was comparing myself against all the other legends that have been on this podcast, because like I've dedicated a lot of time into listening to podcasts to try and gain information, being the sponge I am. And there's a lot of big success and big stories behind a lot of the other guests that have been on. And for all day today at work, by being home, I was so hard on myself with going, why do they want to do a podcast on me? And like that was just thieving the joy from this experience, and I couldn't focus on actually, no, you know what, like it's just a chat. Let's just go in for the chat and let's see how this goes. And Jared told me when I rocked up, I was stressing. I was very stressed in what was about to unfold, and I think it was the uncertainty. I've never experienced it before. Plus also, I didn't have faith in myself and in what I've sort of gone through, I think. And I think I've been able to now feel like a big weight's been taken off my shoulders, and I've been interviewed for the first time, and it's
First of many.
You've nailed it. The story's out now. Expect to receive some messages of love from a lot of people, and thank you for coming on. And
I think too, if you are listening to this and you did take something away, like I know every time you've messaged me with an expression of gratitude or just give me insight into where you're at, like goosebumps, like always. And I think we definitely underestimate the power of a message. And so if you've taken something away, whatever it might be, make sure you do reach out to Josh to let him know, or let us know, so we can pass it on. Best ways through Instagram. Where can people find you? Where's the best place to find you on Instagram?
Yeah, probably Instagram, which is just @SprinterDuff. That's an old car name from back in the days where I used to love my cars, and I haven't changed it. So
perfect.
I think if I can keep sprinting and keeping pace, it sort of has a play on what I'm living with now. So
absolutely. Well, bro, thank you so much. Do we want to add anything to?
Well, you asked us you said why we asked you to be on the podcast, man. Listen back to this tomorrow. Just listen back to it.
No explanation.